Hello, this is Pixie to another video. Now, should you change for other people? And the answer is no, but people will always try to change you. And especially when you do anything new or different. And so I'm not just on about fasting, it could be that there's kind of things that are seen as social pluses, acceptable or negatives. And then you get people that hear you're doing well at something or have an interest, and they want to tell you what other things to do with yourself. As if that's what you're looking for. Guidance. That often happens, and with family, friends, whoever. I don't know. It's just something to be very wary around. And you've got to realise if you want to live your own life, you've got to be willing to do your own things. And do not compromise. For myself, I found that I needed to. Well, I would be suppressed by a lot of this criticism that's going on in my life. But what's happened is I just completely rebelled. And so I don't actually. I probably do it for a long time. I don't actually listen. I mean, I hear what people say. I acknowledge what they say, and I give them an intellectual answer back. But if they're not willing to listen and understand themselves, then I can't see what their point is. Are they attacking me? Do they want to force a change on me? So I think you just distance yourself from certain elements that are negative in life, and concentrate on finding people like-minded and people that can share the same opinions, because they're much more useful sharing an opinion that's just like your own. And there's always bigger questions. Sometimes people don't have. They're being different. So there's a lot of stuff about neurodiversity, about people thinking different and being different. They might be on autistic spectrum. They might be on something else. I don't know. There's more than we know, really. I mean, it falls under certain patterns. So. There's how society was set up. There were people that were architects, there were people that were builders, there were people that were hunters, there were people that were involved in sort of the money matters and organising in society. There was people who made leadership decisions, there were people that were involved in nursing and protecting society and healing. And so there's always been these kind of models that have existed in society, and at one point they're probably quite strict and structured, and then at another point, or they just naturally went into these positions, like this person's got these skills, this is the type of job for you. And now what you have is that society's changed a lot different, there's more technology involved and stuff like that, but there's also a probability of them that fast. It's just hypnotising you with the wipers. So what's happened is that different types, and also the shamans, the mystics, the people that would be. So what they had was they had to properly conquer their own demons. They had to reach inside themselves and deal with things because they saw the world differently. It wasn't necessarily labelled that guy's a schizophrenic, because he grounded his beliefs in nature, or signs, or things that he couldn't quite understand, but they were kind of, the information was getting fed into his mind in a different way, and people listened. They thought, this man thinks different, this man may be in touch with something other than himself. And for women as well, different things they could bring to the table by being different. I mean, I don't know about autism within the past. See, some things have never been really reported, they'll say people were possessed, that people this, people that, but there should be more reports about people with disabilities. We live in a society that's full of disabilities, basically, things that never happened in the past, and I don't know why. Maybe they were killed them off, maybe they were always cold. And there's also other elements to society. Why do people have different sexualities? What do they fulfil? They have roles in society. I think possibly with elements where resources are scarce and overpopulated, having a different sexuality may fit that model. You're not just draining resources. You can nurture, if there was, say, other issues like more children, less adults, was the warfare or something. There might be all sorts of reasons why things are. I'm not saying it's unnatural. I'm just saying it serves a purpose if you see a community as an organism, as a living being. And so the survival of the fittest isn't about the individual, but it's this grand scale of an organism that's based on a functional sort of network, a social network of survival. And it also means that in some elements they cull them out, and they say, well, this is not working, this is not supporting the group, what do you bring to the table? And so people have to also dig into that, because it might be like not natural. Say in the past there was only less caste system. There was you're either a leader, you're a warrior or a cook or something like that. And then there's new jobs opened up where they just want to look to take care of the children. Maybe the Jews had warfare, so it wasn't about hunting. You would have things where somebody might ambush the men and be after the women, or they might be after the children, and it creates these imbalances and influxes, and they needed to be sort of fixed out. So I mean, there's some things like where there's war, more girls are born to generate peace, and maybe also in the same essence that could be for different sexualities may bridge that gap as well. I don't know, I haven't really looked at it that finely, but I do understand that they would fulfill an order in a large cluster, because I look at the social order in nature, and there's like, for instance, there's beings that are sexually neutral. They don't have a sexuality, there's no desire. I mean, maybe possibly looking at certain autistic elements to people, that they might be more interested in a function on doing something, more pleasure in that than trying to seek out a mate. There's a kind of, for some people there's a childlike element that they hold on to. And so as this social structure, they fulfill maybe specific jobs, and that is why they excel at certain areas, but very well. So they might have certain things where they basically seal the deal. If you kind of have someone mentored into a particular function, like making weapons, for instance. Somebody can make weapons to a high standard. They give the edge to the group that they didn't have before. But it's utilising these kind of resources. And there's other things as well. You look at nature. You look at things like the way ants, for instance, function. That you might have a set group that breed, while the others are in essence drones that support the hive and don't really have anything out of that structure. So basically social models are evolving and changing. They, I better get right over. They reflect nature, but they're more complicated than that because they're adapting all the time and developing, and there's new structures being created, like we're trying to resource all humans, so even ones that have birth defects, etc. We're trying to make them so that they can function in our society, which is sort of morally it's very positive to do that. It can be a drain of resources, and for some countries I don't know if that is happening because they don't have a structure set up for it. Which also brings me on to current models and changing areas of society, like becoming very technological, where some people have lost some older skills that others would have, like basic things like being able to cook and utilise chemicals and resources. But what's starting to grow is that possibly you'll have teachers or elders in essence that are machines. that. Oh my god. Tidal wave. Tidal wave. Oh yeah, it's raining heavily over in the UK. I did see it, it was like a blink black pool, and I didn't really gauge the speed of what was behind me. So yeah, you've got a kind of generation gaps that are forming, where people are radically different from their peers, and that's generating problems because there's friction amongst them, and then there's people that fail in society, and so there's another underbelly of this. What we've considered failures is that they're looking for an alternative sort of social structure, and that will be through forms of crime and other things that go to a more primitive state, and it's more survival. So they see to where they can function the best, and so what they're looking for is vulnerable targets to feed off. And so in essence, they're like the bottom feeders of society, the scavengers in nature. They formed different structures. Anything that we are, you can find in nature, reflective in nature some way. And so the basic mould has been applied differently to the circumstances, and it's just for that purpose of existence and having a function as well. So you have a network of crime as well that develops, because it's just a case of a kind of alternative government or governing that people have. They don't want to follow a system, they want to create a system that works for them, and that system feeds off another system. And then when some of them can actually extend and form their own sort of structures, they may reintegrate into society. So you've got things where they're kind of shady organisations and groups, but they don't want to be the opposer to society. They almost want to sort of function in a kind of hierarchy, and so they've got to integrate, and that's why they try to choose somewhere in the middle. I was quite interested by, someone told me about, well, it's somewhere local to where I live here, that a older man got into some argument, and there were three people, with a younger girl and two lads, and he's misread the situation as well. So in his model, talking down to children, they should be respecting their adults and so on. But for them, they saw him probably as an out-of-date element that needed to be removed from society, or he's in some way imposed himself that's caused an issue, and so they chose a method of violence, and he was pushed under a car, or pushed into a car, way of a car. They just overpowered him, so there's two of them, and they've done that. And it sort of models what's the sickness of society, in that we talk about removing the knives and that, get rid of all the problems of knife crime, but all you've got is a frustrated man without a knife, and so it just turned into something else. The violence evolves to meet the needs of society, and that could mean, he could kill somebody with a bloody wooden spoon if he wanted to, or whatever, whatever is available, somebody will weaponise to fulfil the need of a violent urge, and that's more the primal side of society. But so how do we fix that? Well, why are these people rebelling so far off that their parents have disconnected themselves from their parents, that they've decided to form an education program outside of what they would integrate with society? So they might be fixated on certain violent entertainment. They might be have a predisposition to fantasize about violent acts and crime. They're encouraged by people around them that they associate as friends, but they use them as a kind of shield to survive. And they try to create this thing where they believe that they're older than they are by masking their identity or subverting it in some way. So they're actually trying to dehumanize themselves. And that's why people dress up in the way they hide their faces. because they don't feel responsible, because when they look in the mirror they wear the face of their family, and their mum and their dad are in their face as well, so they have to live with that responsibility of being that part of the family. There's some things they haven't quite shaken off. It's quite a hard one for them to deal with. So yeah, it's just an interesting area of thinking about social models, social structures, crime, people, generation gaps, where we're developing and how we're developing. And then I've got some other models like the dating models changing, a different landscape, and how you engage with that. So classically I was looking at a few things with somebody who went on some date, and once the man feminizes himself, he creates that vibration at that level. So his attraction has peaked, and she will lose attraction, because why he feminizes himself sexually or whatever, his orientation, she will masculinize herself and therefore act in a more masculine way and be in control, because he's lost control because he's given into himself and to his hormones. I mean, it's more of a case of cause and effect. He's more caught up with creating a cause without understanding the effect. The effect is more an offspring may come of it. And if this is as good as it gets, is that what she wants? A guy that's acting like a puppy, you know? She'd be better off rebelling against that, and there's several structures of testing that occur with relationships and just communications generally, and mixed communications as well. So they're quite interesting. I've been analysing someone's behaviour, and it's very much the push me, pull me, wanting you, but let's not get too over the top. Yes, that's me, and but it needs to be, you know, you need to be serious about this, or it's a mixture between serious and sort of the attraction, I guess. But this is just something I've noticed I've been working on. I mean, everyone's aware of these things. It's not exactly rocket science. But what we don't do necessarily is analyse it and digest it and then look at it, and also act against their own nature. So for men, they're very quickly subdued by the idea of what they could get from the relationship. And as a result, sometimes they overdo it and they end up settling for below themselves, because there's a more of a desperate function to function as a man, and there's also a kind of codependency driver in men. A desire to connect to a feminine source, I guess. But women don't really care for that. I mean, men can organise themselves differently, they can be independent, and that's why you've got this MGTOW model that's come out. But I think what people need to do is they need to MGTOW, they need to look at themselves, reanalyse their structure, restructure their thinking, and then get back into normal society. I think trying to create an alien sort of bubble. So engage with females, definitely. Act responsibly, be able to communicate at the same level. Develop the skills that the women can associate, as shows that you're somehow unique and you have some intellectual qualities. And it'll be quite clear. I mean, there's the biological imperatives for both sexualities, both genders, I should speak more clear on, or maybe sexualities as well. You know, there's certain desirable traits, like if somebody's homosexual, for instance, there's an expectation that they're physically in a good shape, and if they're not, they're not considered a kind of special. I mean, they have to try harder. But then there's kind of a mixture of sort of subcultural, and then there's the kind of outwardly hypergamy of a difference. Each sexuality, I guess. There's one that's quite blatant, and there's one you don't really analyse or see. Bloody swimming pool. I'm swimming tonight. Go over it. Right, anyways, to sign off and speak to you soon.